Earlier you were talking about kind of this transition you made from reading a book and a week later not remembering what the hell it was about
Mhm.
to now like being able to read a book and remembering it and talking about it and using that information in your life. What are a couple tips for other people who want to make this same transition and be able to retain more of what they're reading?
The most important thing I do is to pull out one thing from each book. And I think my biggest problem before was I would read a book and I was like, "This is incredible. These ideas are amazing. I want to remember every single one of these." And what would happen is I wouldn't remember a single thing because it was like I was trying to remember too many things.
Yeah.
So on one side of it is just remember one thing. And the bigger part of that idea is like if you have a bookshelf, you can look at that book and the idea is to be able to remember that one thing. And what I started to find out is if I remembered one thing from a book, that would actually help me remember a lot of the other things in the book because
Mm,
then that idea would tie it to a story in the book or other things that would just help kind of bring the whole thing together. But if I tried to remember all of the things from the book, I couldn't remember any of them. So that's the first thing is just trying to pick one thing. Um, the other side, sorry, just really quick, tied with that one thing is if there is something that you can implement, that's the greatest thing that you can do for
mm,
a book. So especially with like a productivity book, those are kind of obvious. With novels, it might be like an idea that you just kind of keep thinking about, but like, or you see something a character does and you're like, man, I want to be like that. So if there's something that just one thing that you change, even if it's like a slight change in your life, um, I think of the David Goggins books or something, something like that, where it's like you see this man in how he approaches running or
mhm.
life or different things, and it's like if I just change one thing, if you change it and that becomes a habit, like that book is internalized for the rest of your life.
Right.
So you don't have to try to write it down or remember it. It's like it's internalized in your life. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I put a ton of things in place for each book. So I only buy physical books and I try to get the hardcover if possible because the hardcover I can write in the back.
Mhm.
So as I'm reading, I'm underlining, I'm writing in the margins, and then at the end of each chapter, I try to do just kind of like a brief review of that chapter. The most important things I'm writing in the back. So I can pull any book from my library here, and the back cover will be the main notes from the book. That's one thing. And then, as you mentioned, the website for Books of Titans, I do kind of I just share my thoughts about each book. So again, I'm having to like go through the book, put together my thoughts for it. The most important thing I do is the podcast because I try to put that book in a 30-minute episode, and at the end of it I share the one thing. But I've noticed that the books that I have not done a podcast for, I don't remember them as well as the books I have done a podcast. And the other thing is I can always re-listen to that podcast episode to get the ideas from the book.